What's up, everybody? Nick from Till the End here, coming at you once again from Sweet Studios. So today we're going to be starting a rebuild and rewire on the inner monitor and playback rig for the band. So let's get right into it. Now, if you follow the channel, you might have seen the build video I did for this last year. The idea at the time was to build the smallest, most compact system we could. And then we took it out on the road for our recent run of shows here in January in the US. And we learned some lessons along the way. Now, the rig itself worked flawlessly. No problems with any of the components we put in it, how it was set up. But we learned some lessons as far as ways to streamline how it's set up, to make setup and teardown easier, especially when you're dealing with shows where there's multiple bands and you have a limited amount of time for changeover. The way it's set up now is not really ideal for that. So I came up with some ideas to really streamline the setup and teardown to make it as painless as possible. So we're going to go through and kind of talk through all the changes we're going to make, and then we'll get into actually building it. So all of the drawbacks to the system as it stands right now stem from how small and compact the system is. I actually made it too small and compact. The idea was we wanted to be able to put everything into one case if we're going to fly somewhere and check it. But as it turns out, even as small as it is, we were still over the 50-pound weight limit that you would start getting charged for excess weight. So that being the case, having it that small and compact with the drawbacks it causes doesn't really make sense. So if we're going to be overweight anyway, let's just step it up to a bigger case. So we're going to be moving to a 6U case versus a 4U case. It's also a deeper case as well. So that's going to alleviate some of the issues we have with the space inside of the rack. Now, one of the biggest issues we ran into is right here, this big mess of cables. Because of how compact this is, it is impossible to connect or disconnect anything on the backside without pulling things apart. So this stuff has to stay connected all the time. Our XLR tails going to front of house, our MIDI cables going to our pedal boards for preset switching, has to stay connected all the time. So inevitably what happens when you're playing night after night, show after show, when you tear down, you're just trying to get off stage as quick as possible, so we don't have time to nicely wrap up all the cables. So you just grab everything, you throw it in the case, and get off stage. And then the next night you show up, and everything here is tangled up. So you got to spend 5 minutes untangling things, getting them run to where you need to, and that starts eating into your changeover time. You start pushing up against the schedule. So we wanted to eliminate as much cables as possible. So what I did is I ordered a custom backplate for the rig, and we're going to pre-wire all the stuff inside of the rig to the back of this. And then that way we'll be able to keep our cables separately, plug them in when we get to the show, and we'll be ready to go. Now, along with that is going to be eliminating some of these MIDI cables altogether. Even though we don't touch our pedal boards once we start playing a show, everything is controlled via MIDI. Because we don't have enough space in the rack, we still have to run cables out to our pedal boards, run the MIDI out for controls, and then run the audio back into the rig. So we're doing a lot of setup and tear down there with running cables out that we could eliminate by going with a bigger rig. So stepping up to 6U, all this will move up, and then at the bottom we'll have a rack drawer that slides out, and we'll have a combined pedal board in the rig itself that has our wireless units, our amp and effects, and everything will be pre-wired into the rig. So there won't be any running of cables back and forth. We'll just be able to set up the rig, run our stuff to front of house, and then plug in our guitars and go. So in a nutshell, that's it. I might split this into different parts depending on how long this goes. We're going to start out by getting our back panel set up, getting all the connectors in there, and wiring everything up to the back of the rig. And then probably the second part, if we do two parts, would be setting up the combined pedal board in the bottom of the rack. So let's just jump right into getting the panel wired up. All right, so first things first, we had to disassemble the existing rack and get everything ready to swap over. As you can see, the backside, as I said, super congested, impossible to get your hands in and out of there to disconnect or connect anything. So main reason why we're doing this. So taking some time here to get all the wiring out, cable management stuff that we'd put in there to get everything swapped over to the new rack. All right, now doing a quick mock-up of the components in the new rack, just so we know where everything needs to go when we start wiring everything in as far as cable lengths and stuff like that. All right, now working on the back panel. First thing we're doing here is just countersinking the holes for the jack mounts, just so everything sits kind of flush, and then we're going to start loading the panel up. First thing first, we ran into an issue where the antenna connectors, the holes weren't quite big enough, so I'm drilling those out here, just resizing them so they'll fit the BNC connectors. All right, now it's time to start loading up the panel, getting our antenna BNC connectors on, and then all of our other XLR and 1/4 inch jacks installed into the panel. All right, now moving on to the actual wiring of the panel, which, you know, for me is doing soldering and wiring on stuff like this it's really like soothing for me. I can lose all track of time when I'm doing stuff like this. I kind of go to like a Zen place. I don't know if anybody else feels like that, but I really enjoy doing stuff like this. Right now I'm wiring up all the XLR connectors coming out of the splitter to go to front of house. I had cut these cables longer than I knew I was going to need them. That way, once we get the panel installed, I can kind of measure for exact lengths that I need. Moving on now to the combo jacks for the inputs to the PreSonus mixer. And then once we get those wired up, we'll get the strain relief put on, do some cable management, and make everything look nice and neat. All right, so I have the majority of the back panel wired up, at least everything I can do at the moment. So I figured I'd give a quick rundown of everything we wired up. So here on either side, we have the antenna connections for our wireless units, for our in-ear monitors. The PC USB here is taking a signal from our laptop, Ableton's output into the track rig to run our backing tracks and stuff. The router power and LAN is going to our little small wireless router that we use for controlling our individual mixes in the PreSonus 16R. The 8 channels of XLR outputs coming from our splitter going out to front of house. So we would just connect a snake to the back here and go to front of house from there. We have 2/4 inch outputs here, which is our cabinets, our speaker outs. So if we're running cabinets on stage, we don't always, but if we need to run cabinets on stage, the signal would come out of here and go to the cabinets. Then we have 4 inputs going to the back of the PreSonus 16R. We have our 2 crowd mics, and then left and right drums, which comes from our drummer's Yamaha EAD10 drum module. That's how we hear the drums in our ears. We don't take inputs off of the drum mics themselves. Right here we have our drummer's in-ear monitor output. We have him wired, so the rest of the band is wireless, but we keep him wired just so he has a steady signal coming in all the time. The MIDI control that is running out to a MIDI foot switch to basically control Ableton, so we can start and stop things with the click of a switch. We don't have to be on the laptop itself. And then finally, not wired in yet, but we're going to have our power input here. So our Furman is going to connect to the back of this, so we can just plug in an IAC cable. We don't have to have the cable hardwired hanging out of the rack. All right, part 2 of this build is going to center around this rack drawer right here. This is going to contain our combined pedal board. So myself and Costas will have all of our gear in here. We're going to have 2 Shure wireless units as well as a Quad Cortex Mini. That is going to be shared. We're going to run both of our guitar signals through that. Everything is going to be controlled via MIDI in here. We won't have to run cables in and out of the rack. Everything is going to come right into our splitter and feed into the 16R for our mix, and then out to front of house for them to do what they need to do with it. So yeah, everything's going to be self-contained in here. We're going to have 2 small power amp pedals as well. If we're going to push cabs, we can run that, like I said, through the back, through the 1/4 inch outputs on the back. So stay tuned for part 2. Once I get the Quad Cortex Mini in, still waiting on that one. As soon as I get that in, we'll build up this drawer, wire everything that's remaining in, and we'll let you guys see the final product. So that's all we got for now. Stay tuned for the next one, and we'll catch you guys later.